institutional political fabric. Thus, the crisis of democracy, even though the crisis, the fatigue of democracy and the emergence in many parts of the world of various forms of quote-unquote fascisms, or if you want to put it differently, the authoritarian turn of liberal democracy. Can talk about that at length if you want. So the point I want to make is that it is urgent to think about all of this because of this renewed convergence of human experience, biological life, and technical system. I say that because part of the new planetary consciousness emerges from a realization that for too long we humans have given a vastly disproportionate weight to humans. And that age of self-satisfaction, self-arrogation, we can no longer continue with that. Or if we want to continue with it, it will be the risk, the cost of continuing with that is higher than letting it go by now. So, the realization that the planet, since I have been invoking that term, the planet, as opposed to the Earth, as opposed to the globe, and those other designations, the gradual realization that the planet is inhabited by humans, of course, but also by all other range of other biological life forms, as well as by technical systems. The realization that the planet is shaped by material processes, countless inanimate objects. All these life forms, let's call them like that, have cognitive capabilities of their own. That cognition is not simply a privilege of the humans. When you look into all that is coming from evolutionary biology, the studies of life systems, this is what we are learning about now. Cognition is not. Consciousness, we're not sure that it's the only prerogative of, exclusive prerogative of the humans. The capacity to act, neither. Questions of agency. And that, in fact, in order to turn the planet into a home, rather than into a space that is uninhabitable, hostile to habitation, the planetary as that which allows us to rethink questions of habitation, of homemaking, that we have to come to terms with the fact that agency is something that is shaped within multiple, to use Latour's term, actors, and that we are not the only actors. So if you want, this reawakening is making even more urgent the necessity to examine questions I have been talking about. Now, the third move, I have 4 or 5 moves, so we're almost there. The emergence of this planetary consciousness also has to do with a reappraisal of one of the major historical forces that has contributed to, if not the unification of the world, but in any case, the sense that they are forces that are translocal, transnational forces, and in this case, capitalism. So we have come to a moment when it seems to me there are at least 5 things in relation to capitalism that are leading to new sets of interrogations about its own future. The first has to do with the fact that capitalism is both broken and all-pervasive. It is broken, and there are many different examples we can give to show the extent to which it is broken. And yet it is all-pervasive. So the question is, how come something that obviously is not working, or in any case is not working for the majority of people, how do we explain that many of us are still desiring it, are still caught in its regime of desire? Although there's mounting evidence to show that it's not working. Or, in any case, working for, to quote the Occupy movement, and for that matter, respected economists such as Piketty, 1%. And some people will tell you it's not even 1%. That is far below 1%. So, that's the first paradox. The second paradox is that capitalism has produced, of course, the technological conditions for a world of universal welfare, if that was the goal. And we have the means to make sure that every single inhabitant of our world has access to the minimum conditions of what we call well-being, dignity, all these goals the South African Constitution speaks about in such great terms. We have all of that. We have the conditions for every single inhabitant of the planet to enjoy, to have access to, let's call it minimal work. We talk about minimal revenue, minimal work. And yet, capitalism is at the same time the agent of ever more extreme inequality and immiseration. Third observation, the reach of the profit motive has become totalizing, which is exactly part of what I was arguing about a moment ago. It has no limits any longer. It has no limits. We are now all beholden to a global financial system that has never been more opaque in its operations and yet so transparent in their effects. So it's opaque. The amount of money found in fiscal paradises is far bigger than the money that is actually circulating in the formal banking system. Some of you might have had a look at the Panama Papers. They describe these operations very clearly, and they help to have some sense of how opaque they are. So on the one hand, opacity. On the other hand, transparency in terms of the consequences, and especially the deadly consequences. The land being made absolutely uninhabitable. So, the other thing is that capitalism has not only saturated our world, more and more, many believe that it now threatens to extinguish that violence, the problem of extinction. Thematic of extinction is back on the agenda, or in any case, it's the possibility of human extinction. So, I would now like to make some comments on this question of extinction and its various avatars, I'll mention some of them, and the kinds of new interrogations that are emerging in relation to what is to be done, what can be done, what is to be done, what forms of knowledge and critique do we need to imagine, first of all, in order to account for the moment, the epoch we are witnessing, and the ways in which we can emerge out of what clearly looks as a cul-de-sac. So it seems to me that, and here building especially on the South African case, that, but not only the South African case, trying to read the South African case from within a broader perspective, it's rather that, the effort. It seems to me there are at least three options that are being put on the table. You have, on the one hand, those who are no longer invested in the politics of dissent, or who are questioning any politics of dissent, who are not convinced by the investment certain traditions of intellectual inquiry have made on the question of dissent. Critique as dissent, critique as, let's say, the whole problem of negative critique. Questions you find talked about, I assume that many of you are literary scholars. I mean, all those debates on surface reading, Marcus Best, Sharon, the recent response in social text by a group of scholars operating from New York who are trying to save Frederick Jameson and his kind of investment in what he calls interpretation. So what I'm talking about is not really that far from your scholarly preoccupations. So you have that skepticism in relation to the way in which we have invested in the scholarship of dissent, politics of dissent, negative critique, if you want, which you find in the works of people like Latour and those who follow him, who basically say that critique has run out of, can't remember the exact terms, out of,
steam.
It has run out of steam. Yeah, that's the issue. But it has run out of steam unless we reanimate it. It will become purposeless. It won't be dealing with what he calls matters of concern. It won't be the response to that which matters. So you have that suspicion. You have, as I suggested, those who basically say that what we can hope for, what we can hope to achieve, is to intensify the horrors of contemporary capitalism. Kind of, let's say, politique du pire. So it's bad. Let's intensify those elements of capitalism that are so bad that it will precipitate its end. It's the whole current called accelerationism. Let's accelerate it. Let's play on its contradictions. Let's highlight them. And in doing so, it will come to a crash. Not only a crash, it will come to its end. The question of the end. The future as the end. mean, you see a little bit of that in our own politics here in South Africa. Just think a little bit. You have accelerationists. The system is broken. Let's intensify the contradictions and let's bring it to its end. Now, I would like to devote or move a little bit of time to that idea that in order to make our space habitable again, we need to precipitate a catastrophe. That idea that in order to put an end, to bring an end to the violence of the world, the violence of the present order, we have to inflict upon it a far bigger form of violence. That we can make use of violence to bring violence to an end. I mentioned, because we see it here, we see it elsewhere, it's not a typical South African problem, it is a broad world problem. So this idea that the subaltern has to unleash violence in order to bring structural violence to its end has given rise to a whole set of discourses. Most of them right now circulate for books, mostly internet. It has given rise to a whole set of texts, ideologies, movements, who are articulating, coalescing around some key terms I don't have the time to look into, a term such as disruption, a term such as interruption. By the way, the other day we were here in the Cape, Judith Batchelor again was giving a lecture at UWC, and she was saying, you know what, there's so much to destroy, why should we stop? So, interruption, disruption, denormalization, this is coming a lot from certain tradition of queer theory, belief being that norms are terrible, and we have to denormalize. The end of a certain order of things in which the future is equivalent to the end. Everything must fall, basically, including the rain when, for those who live in places where we need it. So, I call all of that kind of politics, the politics of viscerality. I think that it has a name, and that name has to be the politics of viscerality. Now, one or two quick words about the term viscerality. Of course, it's a term that evokes, first of all, strong, intense feelings, passions, powerful emotions, especially as these feelings and emotions motivate individuals and groups to take actions of various kinds. Passionate actions, often violent, and seemingly instinctive responses to perceived threats and challenges. So the term evokes that. So a politics that is saturated by passions, kind of energy, vitalist energy that emanates from that. I mention it, I don't have time to go into further details, only to highlight the difference between that kind of politics which the Enlightenment tried to contain. When you read, let's just say, okay, Hannah Arendt, many others, well, the political is the space precisely of containment of passions. Spinoza has a different reading of this. puts more value on